I have a guest today. From time to time, I introduce a person to you. This person probably doesn't need introduction because he's already been here before. He is the Rev Ric Holland, and we honoured him. He honoured us by his presence at the last St Michael's Day when we highlighted the enormously significant work that he has been doing, and we gave him one of our medallions. So I'd like to bring him back amongst us to talk with us today, the Reverend Ric Holland. Would you welcome him? So welcome. Take your seat. You're being approached. Would you make sure that that's... Welcome to St Michael's.
It's always good to be here.
So speak right into this little bubble, and we'll hear you. Ric Holland is the Chief Executive Officer of the Melbourne City Mission. The Melbourne City Mission. What is the Melbourne City Mission?
Melbourne City Mission is the oldest and the largest organisation working in the city of Melbourne. This year we celebrate our 161st year. And we work across all areas of disadvantage. Our prime motivation is to work with those who are most disadvantaged. We started in 1854, which was a very significant time in the development and growth of Melbourne. At that time, just the year before, the population of the city was just less than 20,000. In 1854, the population grew by 500,000. And that consisted mainly of what amounted to young, single women with large families. Why? Well, Dad headed off to Ballarat or Bendigo to find a fortune, most likely didn't, leaving behind Mum and the kids in what became known as Canvas Town. It was a tent city following the river from the bottom of what is now the city right through to the top up here. And something like between 400,000 and 500,000 people lived there. And into that space came Dr. John Singleton, a man who was a doctor and a pharmacist, and he responded to the massive needs of those people, of sickness, of poverty, of homelessness, of disability. And founded a number of things, including, should I say, the Royal Children's Hospital. But in addition to that, Melbourne City Mission. And the work that he started those 161 years ago, we continue today.
So what are you doing? What are you doing today? What is the major thrust
Our
of
big
your work?
areas of work are working in the fields of homelessness, disability, education, employment, palliative care, and aged care. If you look at the city, when you're walking around, you will see young people sitting on the pavement, and those are the young people that we work with every single day. There are approximately imagine this in the world's most livable city, Francis. There are approximately between 7,000 and 8,000 homeless young people in this city.
When? Tonight? Last night, or when? Over what period are you talking?
Every night.
Every night?
Every day.
Every night. 8,000
homeless young people. And if you are homeless in the city and you're young, say under 25, you will go into what we call our single door entry program on King Street. It's called Front Yard. And behind those doors, you will find a whole array of services for homeless young people. Accommodation, education, health. We have doctors, nurses, legal issues, because everybody comes with legal issues. We have 11 lawyers. We have a hairdresser. We have people addressing issues of employment, counselling, drug abuse. It is a one-stop shop for homeless young people in the city. And we've been working with that category for the whole of the existence of our organisation.
Where do you get the money to do this?
A range of income sources. Predominantly, of course, we do get government funding, predominantly state funding, a little bit from the federal government, but as with all of the not-for-profit organisations at the moment, that's reducing. And that constitutes about 60 to 70% of our funding, and we have effectively to fundraise the difference.
How much do you need to get to run it?
Well, our overall budget is $60 million
Per year?
per year.
Yes.
And we raise from government between 60 to 70% of that, which means we have to raise ourselves, say, about $20 million a year.
20 million. Do you raise it?
Approximately.
Do you raise it?
We do. We raise it through trust and foundations, and Melbourne is the heart of the trust and foundation world in Australia, and that's to our benefit. We raise it through corporate support and through individual fundraising through direct giving.
So these young people predominantly, you say, that you look after, say the homeless young people, do you do them any long-term good, or are they kept in their?
No. The whole point of our work with young people is to become what we call an agent of social change, or, if I might refer to the Old Testament reading today, to work with young people who have stumbled and to enable them to fly like eagles. When you walk past a homeless young person, you all will in the city, most days, just think for a moment the life of that young person. It is very likely that they are homeless and living on the streets because they have had to escape physical or sexual abuse at home. It is very likely that they haven't chosen to be homeless. They have had to escape situations and have ended up on the streets. And now, what we do with those young people is we try to create a future for them. Francis, let me just tell you one little story of a young woman that I met this week. She came into our front yard program when she was 17. She was homeless, she was scruffy and dirty. She hadn't been to school for about 2 or 3 years, and we have actually our own school in the city. It's called, very grandly, Melbourne Academy, and I'm very proud of it, for homeless kids. I remember when I started that school about 3 or 4 years ago, our trendy youth worker said to me, "What? You're going to call it Melbourne Academy?" I said, "What do you want to call it? Melbourne School for Disadvantaged and Homeless Kids." From that starting point, about 3 or 4 years ago, one classroom with 22 kids, we now have a school in the city for homeless kids of, at the moment, 200 kids attending school regularly. And this young woman was one of those. That was 3 or 4 years ago. This year, she graduates from Melbourne University, now soaring like eagles. I could quote other stories of young people, maybe not as grand as that, but who've gone on to apprenticeships, who have managed to find jobs even in the city, making coffee or whatever. What I'm talking about here is creating change in the lives of people who, in normal circumstances, see themselves as having no future.
We here within St Michael's, of course, see the very people you're talking about, many of whom are lolling in the streets in fairly dilapidated condition, probably mentally ill. And we're afraid of them, of course. And when they approach us for money, we don't give it to them because, for 2 reasons. We don't want them continuing to bot off us, and furthermore, we're afraid of them because they might attack us. What do you say about that? What do you say?
It is scary, and I acknowledge that. This is a field that I've been working with the whole of my life in ministry, and I even now am fearful of a whole lot of particularly young people who aren't normally the sort of people that you would ask to your house for a dinner party. And inevitably, they're a bit scary. I can only say to you that within the soul of every single one of those young people are people who actually want to create a future and who do want to soar like eagles, and it is our task to try and help them in that process. I would say that and we do need to address this very clearly, because when we're walking past people who are sitting on the streets, we don't know what to do. And money is not the answer. But what we do need to put into place is to try to create opportunities for those people. There is an opportunity in this city at our Front Yard programme for those very people. And it might just be an opportunity for everybody here to say, look, we understand your predicament. Here's an organisation that can support and help you.
Yes, I think we ought to hear that. Where is the organisation?
On King Street, at the bottom end of King Street, near the river.
Near the river. And so tonight, how many people will be?
Between 6,000 and 7,000 young people will be homeless in the city tonight.
How many of those will you look after?
We get about every single day. We're working every week with about 3,000 to 4,000 young people. And every single day we'll get about 100 new people coming through that door that we've not seen before.
But everyone that comes through, they need a bed.
They need somewhere to sleep, and we have a whole range of actually not very satisfactory accommodation possibilities for them. We have a range of our own facilities scattered throughout the city, and they're good. But, they get full. Yeah. That's the problem. There's not enough of them. Last year, we have a big fundraising program called Sleep at the G, when we encourage people to sleep overnight and support the organisation. And I announced last year that we were starting a fund to actually build on the roof of our King Street programme a refuge, an overnight refuge for homeless young people. We hope that to happen within the next 2-3 years. We're fundraising for that now. And that will be, imagine this, in this city, that will be the only refuge for homeless young people in Melbourne. And our youth workers would then have the opportunity every single day when kids come in, instead of having to say to them, let's see if we can find a lodging house somewhere for you, or we've got this refuge place just for one night, we'd be able to say to those kids, get in the lift. And we can give you accommodation for a short term, which will enable us then to sort out your future.
How do they know, the homeless wanderer, how do they know to come to you in the first place?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
When I started the school, the academy, in its first classroom, I hadn't got a clue whether anybody was going to come, because these kids don't keep diaries. We just said, next Thursday we're starting a school. Anybody want to come along? And 22 kids rolled up on that first day, and it's simply word of mouth that had been passed around.
So the kids really do want an education?
Absolutely. I had a deputation from a group of kids. Imagine this. I had a deputation from a group of kids, and the sort of kids we're talking about, as you've said, a bit scary. And there was about a dozen of them, came to see me in my Flash CEO office. I've got a Flash office just like him. And they came in, and I thought, what's this going to be? And they said, we want a uniform. I said, what? And these are kids covered in tattoos and piercings and stuff. And the teacher that was with them, and you can imagine these are seriously cool dude teachers, they said, yeah, right, okay, we'll go away and we'll design our own. And they did. They went away and designed their own uniform, and of course it was a hoodie. It had to be, didn't it? But very proudly, and to this day, very proudly, there is a Melbourne Academy badge. And those kids are proud of it. And we have a graduation every year, and they all turn up. And it's the first time in their lives they've ever worn a suit and tie. It's quite remarkable.
Isn't that a great story? So, we're proud of the work you do. Proud to have you as one of our medallion wearers. You have a badge too. Why aren't you wearing it?
I wasn't sure whether I should or not, but maybe I will next time.
You told the kids to wear the badge, but would you encourage them and thank him for coming today? It's been a special work.